Joyann Parker, I want to welcome you to the very first episode of our Conversations at the Park. You've played how many times? 4, 5 more over the years. But this show coming up, and it's going to be next week, Saturday, the 19th of October, 7 o'clock. This is going to be featuring your newest release, which came out at the tail end of 2023, which was your Roots. But do you have a sense of sort of an overall inspiration for the album?
It's kind of a mixture of new songs and then a couple of songs that I wrote early in my career that I redid with my band because we had a record under a different name and we didn't sell very many copies of it, so nobody had really heard it, and I wanted to redo some. So I think there's 2 on here that are old, so kind of the roots of my songwriting. But then also just there's songs on there. I think that it's just I wanted it to reflect, because I had Scotty Girls on there, of course, about being from Wisconsin, and that's definitely my roots. But I think that it's just more of an idea of, I always have songs that are about, who I am, like come from who I am and things. But I kind of felt like there were a bunch of songs on there that were really representative of that, like, what makes me me, and what keeps me standing when I'm struggling, and then also just some songs that are, don't have a resolution to them, but are also representative of struggles that I've been through, and so it was just more about, I didn't write it as a concept or anything like that, but I just went, okay, well, how can I have a title that kind of encompasses what most of these songs are about?
You started out first singing very young, and then piano came next. Yeah. How did the guitar figure into your livelihood and your history?
So when I started, I had never been in a band or anything until my 30s. And so when I was in that first band that I mentioned, I kind of decided that I wanted to add guitar because it was, a lot of R&B and blues kind of bass stuff, that I wanted to add the guitar as a voice. So Mark Lemoyne, who's in the band still, he was doing blues jams in town here in Minneapolis when I lived in Minneapolis. And so I picked up a guitar. He actually gave me a guitar. He was excited about it. Gave me a guitar, said, okay, so you should come to the blues jams. And so I did. That's how I learned. I went down to the jams and I just let those guys, there's a lot of Chicago blues guys, and just let them teach me how to play blues, essentially. So that's kind of where I started, used what I knew about music and taught myself. And it's just been really fun to add it in. And like I said, have that as an additional voice for songwriting. Cause you can go from piano. I was just messing around on something over here that I've been messing around with a new song on the guitar earlier. It's just totally different. I can hear different things. It's inspirational to go from one thing to the other if you're stuck or like you can't hear something. So it's really a blessing to me to be able to do both, or, and it's helpful in a lot of ways. So, and I've just enjoyed getting better. And yeah, this has been fun.
Fun. Well, and touching on your musical background, you were a music ed major. I was very excited to hear about that.
I got a job teaching elementary music, which, was not what I wanted to do. I wanted to teach band. I actually really loved middle school, and which makes me crazy probably, but
oh my gosh.
I loved middle school. I did get to teach band for one year with the seventh graders. Yeah.
Do you feel that education and that musical background sort of has helped you as either a band leader or just in your performances and your compositional work?
Sure. Yeah. I would say theory is helpful. It's helpful when you're trying to tell people what to do, writing horn parts, things like that. That's helpful because I'm producing or co-producing all my music as well. So, I'm writing all the horn parts with Kevin and things. And so that's definitely helpful. I would say band leading for sure. Just learning how to manage things and motivate people, and just that definitely has helped. I think that's part of the reason why the band has been together as long as it has. I mean, we've had basically the same group of people now for 7 years at least.
Wonderful.
And that's pretty amazing. I mean,
yep.
I mean, we like each other generally too, which is awesome. But yeah, the skills I learned, and I've grown a lot too, obviously, but I definitely call back on things. And I have Chris Bates as our bass player. It's really nice to have him and us to be able to speak the same language and have him, help back there when I'm up front. And so it's nice.
So tell me a little bit about the transition, because you were in the Twin Cities for how long? Because you've just recently is it relocated or gone back home?
Yeah.
Or tell me a little bit about that, sort of the inspiration of that transition.
I lived in the Twin Cities for 18 years. We moved back here August of 2020. So it's just been 4 years in St. Croix Falls here. And I love it. I was just done with living in the suburbs. I love the community of a small town. It's so funny, growing up in Mellon, I just went, I got to get out of here, right? When you're 18, you just want to leave and go to the city. And after having kids and things, I went, I would really like to be someplace where people know me. And I have people I can call on if I need. And because it's funny, it can be really lonely. It can be much more lonely with more people around.
I agree. Yep.
I always tell this story. When we were leaving I lived in Andover, and we were leaving our suburb, and we had our moving truck outside sitting on our step. And I knew it was our neighbor. I pay attention to people because that's just who I am. And I knew her, and I saw her coming up the hill. She walked by walking her dog, and she waved and said, "Welcome to the neighborhood." Oh. And I went, "I lived here for 15 years, and you don't even recognize me." So that was like a good kick out the door. I went, "Okay, yeah, we're
bye-bye." Not gonna. That's perfect.
Yeah, it's good for some people. God bless them. It's not for me. I really love my small town, and I love being out in the trees and where I can go hiking. And it's great. I need the walk, the trees, and I'm right by the St. Croix, and it's just gorgeous. So
travel time to the cities is how long for you? Not very long.
An hour.
Right. Yep.
And I come in Mellon. You have to drive an hour to anywhere, so it doesn't matter.
Right. Yep.
I did drive half an hour just to get some groceries, so it's not a big deal.
I'd love to dig into the album a little bit. And as I was listening through, I kind of made notes on the tracks. And I would be really curious, and I hope none of these questions come across as anything but just curious, not rude. But
I don't get it.
Your first track, talk about just grabbing people by the shoulders and being like, here I am. Just talk about a great bluesy, funky opening tune. Where did that sit in the order of the totality of your tracks of that album?
When I sequence, some people don't care about sequencing. Actually, my producer's kind of like, I don't, he doesn't.
Oh, really?
He's just not super about it. Yeah, no, for himself. He's not like me. Let's put it that way. I go through it and go, hey, what about this? What about this? And he's like, okay, yeah, that's good too, And I'm he's not concerned about it, but I've kind of tortured myself over it because I do want to tell a story with my music. And I think that's part of it, right? It's like your book. It's like a book. I look at it and I'm like, okay, so what story does this tell? And I want to make sure that it makes sense. And so I do spend a lot of time on that. So I just thought, it just sets up I think it just sets it up well. I think it's just here, let's just get right into it,
Right. Here's what you're going to get. Welcome.
Yeah, right. Here's who I am, but also, you get 3 tracks in and then you get something completely different. So, I just wanted it to be, if this was your first time hearing me, to be like, oh, that's interesting.
Yep.
Let's see what the rest of it is, So I think that first track is super important. So I'm always thinking. So the last record, it was a really down tempo, haunting kind of bluesy track, and so it's completely different. So that's what too. Okay, last record I did that. I don't want to do that again. Let's do something different this time.
And it's funny because you mentioned, because I was going to talk about that, because then you get, the second track, it's a little slower, but it's still kind of got a little edge to it. And then track 3, you get into this sort of 6/8, now we're going to kind of clear the, little palate cleanser. I thought that tune was great. Wash Away is that the third tune in. And then kind of the fourth tune and fifth tune, we start coming back. And I think the fifth tune, What's Good for You, another strong tune. And where I have questions is when we get past the fifth tune. I'm just fascinated by like the sixth tune, juxtaposition, as I'm kind of clicking through 1, 2, track 3, track 4, track 5, and then I get to track 6 and I'm like, oh, like, okay, like we've changed topics. Like if we're thinking of a book, like we're in definitely a new chapter. And like, tell me a little bit about where that tune came from.
Yeah, well, and I love the name, right? It's juxtaposition.
Right.
So I went, okay, wherever I stick this song, it has to be, okay, totally different. That's why I like it in the middle, because it's like just a shocker. I just write songs. That's why when people say, what kind of music do you do? And I'm like, I don't know. I just say good music. It was like Dizzy Gillespie or somebody. Kevin, I actually heard him doing an interview talking about me once, and he said she just writes songs and then goes with wherever the song goes. So that one, I don't know, the reggae thing just kind of came. I was kind of thinking like when we were making it, Bonnie Raitt does that too, right? Yep. She has some that are like a little reggae thing in there. And I love New Orleans. I love that music. And so we've got a couple on other records too that are very New Orleans influenced. So it's just like a gumbo. It's just like a mix of all the things that I love, which is what I love doing. I like just mixing it all up because I like so many different things, Michael. It's like, like, okay, now I'm going to write a blues song and it has to be. And that's why I don't fit into the blues so much. They're kind of like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm doing whatever I want. That's what I'm doing.
It's my album.
I don't like rules. And some people are great at doing traditional blues and that. But I just like too many things. I'd be bored if I was sticking to one thing. So it just kind of came out that way. And I've got the guys to do it, which is wonderful too. They can do anything. I've been doing a little more saying, like, I just was in the studio the other day and I went, okay, I don't even know if I like this song. What do you think? Like, let's figure something out, So I have, as I grow, I actually been wanting a little bit more input from other people, just because I think that makes you grow too by allowing more process, which I've never been comfortable with before. I was kind of a control freak, like, no, this is how it goes. But I think that's also growth for me to say, I'm okay with that. Let's hear what you have to say and let's hear what you think. And so I think it's part of growth to just release too. Not be like, I have to hold on to this really tightly.
And like you had said, you also have a wonderful group of, your band is family at this point for the years that you've been together. It makes perfect sense, especially over time when you've built that confidence and that relationship. That's wonderful. When I just first was listening through your tracks, it caught me off guard because I just sort of kind of expected Forgive Me as it was just going to be this great blues album. And then we get these middle tunes and I'm just like, this is so great because it just kind of goes against the grain a little bit. So how does it feel to be sort of, now post-composition, post-recording? Any thoughts, anything you do differently?
I think I try to avoid regrets. I also try not to have these unrealistic expectations of what it should be, because the first record I wanted to redo everything 7,000 times. I can do that better. I can do this better. That's ridiculous. You're never done with a record. You just quit. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I would say. Like, you just stop. You just stop. If you have to stop at some point and be cool with it, like Scotty Girl, we recorded that. I think I gave that to the guys in the studio. And I just said,
really?
Here's what we're going to do. Yeah. And we listened to it a couple times and we played it a couple times and then that was it. Because I did that one and that worked for that one because it's just so much fun. And it's just I don't know. I think that worked for that particular song, just to get the energy of learning the new song, and it worked. So, yeah, I went Bobby Gentry, not quite country, country with some Louisiana soul in it. Can we do that? And and that's what we got. So
That's a great tune. That's a great tune. When we started the conversation, we were talking about different instruments, piano, guitar. I was just curious for my own sake, the song Going Under, did you compose that on piano? Yeah.
yes,
Yep.
yep.
That's a
I played piano on
beautiful,
it.
beautiful song. Last question. I don't want to give it away. I don't want to give the ending away. I want to make people go work for it. But the Stay Home Mama tune has an interesting ending to it. How did the conception of ending the song that way come to be? And let's not try to give it away because I want to make people go.
I was trying to think of the funny things my kids have interrupted me for it with,
Oh my gosh.
We went back and forth a bunch of times with which one we should use. So if you see it live, though, it's different. It's kind of different every time. We kind of are inspired to do it differently every time. So my girlfriend, this other singer, she made one up the last time. Totally different, and we just busted a gut because I have no idea what they're gonna say. So, it's super funny to just be like, what's gonna happen? And sometimes the band gets in on it, and yeah,
Sure.
It's pretty funny.
Well, we're very excited to have you join us up here October 19th, 7 o'clock. This is at the Park. Joyann Parker, thank you so much for taking a little bit of your time to join us at Conversations at the Park. This is our first show, and it couldn't have asked for a better person to interview.